Textile too has been doing quite well, and you got glimpses of that in the Bharat Textile Expo that was just held, and it's still underway. 26th to 29th is what I remember, that the Bharat Textile Expo is happening in Delhi. Of course, a whole host of ministers and policymakers were there as well, but listen in to what Prime Minister Modi earlier said as he inaugurated this big mega event.
विकसित भारत के 4 प्रमुख स्तंभ हैं गरीब, युवा, किसान और महिलाएं। और भारत का टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर इन चारों यानी गरीब, युवा, किसान और महिलाएं सभी से जुड़ा हुआ है। इसलिए भारत टैक्स ऐसे इस आयोजन का महत्व बहुत बढ़ जाता है। साथियों, विकसित भारत के निर्माण में टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर का योगदान और बढ़ाने के लिए हम बहुत विस्तृत दायरे में काम कर रहे हैं। हम ट्रेडिशन, टेक्नोलॉजी, टैलेंट और ट्रेनिंग पर फोकस कर रहे हैं।
Very interesting. In fact, Anisha, I must tell you that the highlight of the Bharat Expo this time was not just ordinary textile, etc. There was a lot of focus on recyclable textiles, and from PET bottles textile can be extracted and stuff like that. So value added is the area to go. In fact, we have with us 2 guests who are joining us now who are also present at the Bharat Textile Expo. Pallak Seth, Vice Chairman at PDS, and Sanjay Jain, Group CFO of the company, CEO of the company, also joining. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Pallak, let me start by understanding how was the mood and the scene there. What are the kind of representation happening from the industry side? I understand your company too was, having a place there. And tell us, what is the experience entirely like?
Yeah, good morning. PDS was the fashion sponsor of Bharat Tech. So, I came in yesterday and looked at the whole thing. And honestly, it was very impressive, to see the size and scale of the event and the participation. There was a lot of people attending from various parts of the world. So I think it was a highly impressive event. And, I think the government should do it every year. So it becomes in the annual calendar of every global retailer. So if it's in the annual calendar, they'll end up coming here. It's like almost the Canton Fair in China. Everyone knows in March, every year in March, there's a big fair happening in Guangzhou. So similarly, if the fair happens in India in February or March, then every retailer will put in the annual calendar and there'll be a lot more visits coming. What I found is some of the biggest retailers could not, plan it in their calendar, but they had representation from their local offices. But a lot of emerging countries, from South America, from Middle East, from Africa, a lot of buying and growth happening there. A lot of those people were here visiting the fair as well. It was extremely busy and quite impressive, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, point taken. So that's a take coming in, Pallak. And of course, that India event will definitely find its place in the global calendars as well. But Sanjay, if I can bring you into the conversation. Yes, there's a lot of interest around India, make in India, export from India. But how much of it is actually turning into orders? Talk to us about what the recent flows have been with respect to the order bookings, the conversations that you've had with clients.
I think what the government initiated maybe 2-3 years back in terms of mega textile parks, production like incentive, I believe all of that is now leading to real investment coming into the sector. So at PDS, we are very, very positive about all of this culminating into results. And the other factor is that a lot of Indian domestic retailers, have actually got almost a global size and scale. So therefore, when PDS as a service provider, we do sourcing as a service for retailer, we do brand management, is now able to offer these services to Indian retailers as well. So therefore, the local Indian consumption market, the fact that the government has taken initiative to promote manufacturing and also to add that the infra investment, therefore the reduction in transit time, all these are definitely going to lead to a lot of, sourcing happening from India. In fact, I want to add Walmart, one of the largest retail. In fact, they are the largest in terms of physical retailer. They actually have announced that they are going to shift about a 10 billion plus of sourcing to India. And just about last month, they had actually, the entire senior management and float down to NCR, and they actually invited a lot of manufacturers and service providers. And PDS also participated and was very, very actively seen as somebody to whom Walmart could source from. So therefore, while the tangible results, it's a matter of time happening, but all indicators in that direction, and Walmart announcing a 10 billion plus sourcing to be done from India are all indicators in the right direction.
Pallak, I see you have clocked closer to 2,600 crore in revenues in the third quarter and an EBITDA of about 75 crore. 12 to 14 months far out, how do you see this number improve with the tailwinds which you're talking about, your team is also talking about, and what are the other initiatives you're taking to boost this number in a 2 to 3 year time frame?
I think, so Pallak, you go ahead, please. Yeah.
So, what we are finding, there was a lot of inventory build up in the retailers after COVID, right? During COVID, after COVID, there was a lot of uptake in demand. And then retailers bought a lot of inventory based on that uptake in demand. But then the interest rate rise and, the global slowdown caused a lot of inventory build up. So last year, there's a lot of flush out of inventory in the retailers' books. So what we are finding coming out of Christmas last year, there's a lot more open to buys coming in. So, we are finding that the order books are going to start picking up from next year, definitely. So it's a positive time for the whole industry compared to the last 12, 18 months have been quite weak in terms of global demand. So things are picking up and it should definitely be in the right momentum. PDS in the next 2 to 3 years, we are seeing how we can continue to grow 15 to 20%, our top line, and accordingly our bottom line, looking at all the consolidation happening in the industry. The big retailers and brands want to work with the fewer players who are strategic, who can provide value not only in design compliance, but also, sustainability. And lot of these things require a lot of investment. So, we feel a lot of small, medium-sized companies will not be able to make these investments, and larger groups around the world, if they can invest in the requirements of the retailer, will end up gaining more and more market share. So, yeah.
And to add, Pallak, to the point, I think PDS has been largely doing design-led sourcing, which means designing, manufacturing in my own factories, manufacturing in partner factories. But over the last 2-3 years, we've started adding longevity of revenue in our offerings. When we talk about sourcing as a service, it's a 4 to 5 years contract. And we already have built in a portfolio of approximately 12,000 crore plus in terms of sourcing as a service. We have started offering, complete brand management solution for retailers. So all these are very long-term contracts, 3 years, 5 years, and recent Ted Baker brand management is a 10-year contract. So these actually bring in longevity of revenue. And therefore, while PDS is well positioned, as Pallak said, as the inventory position with retailers is kind of bottoming out. So therefore, we are looking at growth momentum building up. But this longevity of revenue would not only bring a sustained growth, but is also expected to bring in better margins going forward as well.
That's exactly my next question, Sanjay, to you. Yes, 15 to 20% growth is what you're looking at. You're backward integrating yourself, have put in capex as well to, even inorganic growth by acquiring stake in Frontier Knitters as well. But what will it do to your margins? Because right now, the kind of business model you have, yes, the ROCEs, etc., are very high. But if you look at the margins, it's more of a volume game rather than the margin game. Where do you see the margins expanding to, let's say, 12 to 18 months out?
I would request that our margins always need to be seen commensurate with the predictability of revenue and the quality of customers we have. So therefore, for us, we are actually, doing business with leading retailers. Almost a large part of our revenue is credit insured. So therefore, the predictability is pretty high. And talking specifically, we believe that as we get the benefit of operating leverage, number one, as these more margin accretive offerings in terms of sourcing as a service, complete brand management solution, complete sourcing solution, they start gaining more traction in the top line. We are confident that from about 3.25% PAT margin last year in FY23, over a 3 to 5 year horizon, you should see us gradually moving to eventually getting to about 4.5 to 5% PAT margin.
Okay, so that's the take coming in, Sanjay as well as Pallak. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us today and letting us know as to, of course, what the feedback from Expo was and what does PDS plan to envisage going forward as well. So that's the latest coming in as far as textile sector is concerned. A quick